And we are live. Hello, everybody. We're about 15 minutes before show, so if you're just now tuning in, you can. I'm going to, when the time comes, I'm going to put the link in the bottom so you can just jump ahead to the beginning of class. So nobody's here waiting yet that I'm aware of. Um, Hello, Teresa. Hello, Amy. And Tiffany, how you doing? Amy, my home girl. Mm-mm. Hello, Mary Poppins. Doing well. I'm doing well. Hello, Darren. Well, hello. uh, you are a gem. I'm very fond of you. Very fond. My back is actually doing pretty well. I am now getting back to my schedule, getting up at 4, going to the gym, doing light works, but I am working. So, yes, Gemini, check, check. All right, here. Oh, duh. And the hamster is here.
What's happening?
Look
Hello, everybody.
Oh, look at the war hamster with the um oh, very nice, Amy. I got my Untold History Channel shirt on today. Representing. I'm reading the comments.
Yeah, so am I. Hello, everyone. Got the dual short sword hamster today.
Yeah. So, I just check in a little bit early so that we can, chat and with the crew. And you guys may or may not know this, but and I haven't really talked to you yet, hamster, but I talked to both Alpha and Dan, and I think we're gonna do the Clay Clark event. We're gonna go down there as Glitch in the Matrix for the Clay Clark event, and we can all support each other's channels, but we're gonna go there as Glitch in the Matrix, and then we'll have the ability to interview all of the speakers. So guys like General Flynn and um,
Yeah, what's
uh,
the date? What's the date and location on that?
San Marcos, at a big church in San Marcos on the March 11th and 12th. I want to say.
That's pretty close to me. I think I can
Yeah.
guarantee I'll make. Yeah,
Oh
I can
yeah, I
guarantee
know.
I'll.
Yeah. Hello, Janet. Hello, Kikio. Hope I'm saying that correct. And Michael. Hello. So, Tiffany, let me finish my thought there. Yes, I'm back. I'm back in the gym and doing light weights, but high reps, and so I'm very excited because now getting my mojo back.
That's good inspiration. I'm up to about every other day for the morning workouts, but I need to go back to 7 days a week.
Well, I ultimately I mean, my whole objective right now is just getting the I got to get weight off, obviously, and building up my core strength. So,
Yeah, I'm just the opposite. I just want to put on 10 pounds.
yeah,
I'm walking up. I'm too thin right now.
Amy, are you wearing the one that I custom did for you with like it's like a polka dot?
Hey, do you know if we're going to go live on the Glitch podcast today?
I do not know if we're going to go live, but I do. When I talked to Alpha earlier, he said that he created a Glitch in the Matrix Rumble channel so that we could go live.
Okay.
So,
well, if you did that, I got a few people that are wanting to jump in.
Good. Yeah. So
let's hope we can get. It'd be great. It'd be great if we could drop the link in here of this chat, but I doubt we'll have it in time.
No. Well, actually, let me go look. Let me see if I can find it
on Rumble. That's a good idea.
Glitch in the Matrix, 1 subscriber. Now 2. Because I subbed. So I will post this in the chat for you guys. You may or may not be aware that Warhamster and I, along with Dan Radio Style and Alpha Warrior, we do a weekly show. Typically, we do it on Monday afternoons. But today we had to reschedule because Alpha had something he had to do yesterday. But
so we get a double header today.
Yeah, we're doing a double header. So let's see. What was I doing here? Oh, I know.
You were typing in the Rumble link.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in. I'm gonna post it in the on the YouTube side as opposed to the StreamYard side.
You know what? I forgot to log into StreamYard again. I may knock myself offline, but I'll be right back.
Okay.
Because that'll let me post in there.
Oh, I'm all alone again. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Tracy, I was in your hood the other day. I was showing a friend of mine your hometown. I don't want to say it. She was very impressed with the with all of the horse the pathways for horses everywhere. She loved that. She liked the red, white, and blue striping down Main Street. Okay. Oh, I just didn't want to say your town, but okay. I just didn't want to say your town, but hey, who's got me live? You got to turn off your Warhamster. I can't hear you, Warhamster, if you're talking.
How about now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
I had to walk away from the computer for a second.
Yeah, 53 watching. That's pretty good. 53 before we even start. That's actually pretty doggone good. All the horse poop. Yeah. No, I got to see something interesting when I was we were driving around, and I saw there's actually, you know how when you walk across the street and there's a if you hit to a if you get to a stoplight, you have to like hit the buttons for like the pedestrian crossing thing. Well, in Norco, they have horse crossing things, so you actually have to you have to it, it's for people who are elevated on a horse, so you can you don't have to bend down. It's really cool. First time viewer, hello there, Great Lakes.
Oh, you want to do your poll?
Yes, I do need to do the poll. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, we got Illinois there. I got some real good buddies down in Champaign-Urbana. They are very conservative, good people, salt of the earth, and some of my closest friends. Of course, we know
Yes,
how messed up.
Tracy, they are very tall. Okay, guys, so I put a chat, or excuse me, I put a poll in the chat, and I'm going to ask everybody to take part. Whether you've been here for the first time or not, because I want to get an idea of all the people that are brand new. I just want to have an idea. So she says she's 50 miles from Champaign.
Probably not too far from Adam Kinzinger's former district. I know my buddies are just. I know my friends are. Well, one of them moved a little bit north for work, but he's like right outside there.
Nice. Okay. Well, when I was in the Navy, I was at in Rantoul, which is about 15 miles north of Champaign-Urbana. I spent lots of weekends in Champaign.
You'll have to explain to me some other time why they have a naval base 1,000 miles from the nearest ocean.
Wasn't a naval base. It was an Air Force base, and it was a training base. And because the weather school now is on an Air Force base. It's down in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Well, here's the good news about Kinzinger. Just the News is reporting today that him and Liz Cheney, there's a bill to kick him out of the GOP. So
really,
it sounds like that's going to happen.
How can you kick somebody out of the party?
I don't know, Kevin.
Yes, Chanute.
I don't know what the. I don't know I didn't read the whole article. I don't know the particulars, but I just know there was a big old bold headline.
I was one of the last people to go through the weather school there before they moved it down to Biloxi, Mississippi. So yeah, Chanute closed. I want to say in like 91 or 92. I think it was part of the Chanute closed when Clinton did all of the base rearrangements. But I think they knew the writing was on the wall. That's why they moved the weather school. Northern Nevada. Whereabouts in Northern Nevada? You like Elko or oh, there he is. Hold on a second here, guys. I'm gonna mute myself.
I was going to set a betting pool to see how many minutes after 3 o'clock it would take for Doug to get here, but he actually would have proved me a liar. 2:58. So I guess I'll talk while Ron is muted. This is Amy's husband is here. Hey, how you doing, man? Hope you enjoy. I think Ron's trying to get Doug into the room, and then we'll get going. Northern Nevada. I lived up in South Lake Tahoe for about 2 years in my 20s, and I've regretted leaving many times. But I've been all over Northern Nevada. It's a nice area. Well, as you can see, Ron's having a great conversation on his cell phone. So I'm curious, could someone tell me if that loud beep that I just heard in my ears from a email coming in, did that carry through to the broadcast?
Say again, brother.
Oh, can you hear it when my email makes its alert? A real loud ding?
I didn't hear anything, no.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just wondering if it makes it through to the stream.
Valkyrie, where were you in SoCal before you escaped?
Okay, they said they didn't. The ringing noise didn't go through because it comes through like a Canadian truck honk on my end.
They had a B-17 at Chanute. Took my phone. Yeah. I remember. Well, I remember there was a B-17 there. Oh, Valkyrie was in San Diego, down in your hood.
North County here, Valkyrie. Matter of fact, I can actually see the Del Mar racetrack right now. There goes my operations security, though.
Hello there, him, hers.
Yeah, there's another North County, San Diego. I should have a bunch here because of my local group. A lot of them have been trying to tune in. We just got to make sure they know to. They still have to go to the Doug's class on Thursdays in Carlsbad.
Oh, she was in Julian. She was in Julian.
Julian's excellent. That's the apple pie place, right?
Yeah, I think so.
They get snow up there or something.
I don't know what the elevation in Julian is. Tracy says, is San Diego considered SoCal or northern Mexico? Doug's here. Where he's having some technical difficulties, but we're going to get it fixed.
Yeah, if they can ever, if any of these states ever figure out a way to secede, like to Idaho or anything like that, San Diego we're gonna approach Arizona the next day. It may be perfect for Arizona. You know, the half of them live here in the summertime, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like this. They all have vacation homes here.
So Dee says she's Oside area, so that's very close to you.
Yep. We will be in Oceanside. I guess you're not going to make it to class tomorrow. I guess I'll be up in Carlsbad tomorrow or Thursday.
Yeah. I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow night.
See that? We got a Staten Island, New York in the house.
Stand by.
Yeah, don't get me started on masks around here. I haven't put one on in almost 2 years. But I had one grocery store where the manager said, "Oh, I didn't notice you weren't wearing a mask." I just didn't even say a word. I just kept on doing my shopping, and the conversation never went any further. So it really hasn't been a problem, but you can still see mask zombies all over the place, especially driving their cars. Yeah, well, North County is great, and I got a lot of friends and family here, but the cost of living is ridiculous. Traffic gets worse every year, and I think it's too cold in the wintertime in San Diego for me. It's time for me to find some warmer climate without 13% state taxes. Oh, that bike ride up the coast to PCH is great. My biggest problem with that, I used to ride a lot, but those stupid thorns, I forget what they're called, from one of the trees along the PCH. I was fixing 2 or 3 flats a week. And I was on a road bike. I switched to a mountain bike with thicker tires and it got better. But yeah, the beach is great. I'm there every day. Got to take my dog for a run on the sand. Can't do Texit. It's probably going to be a Florida for me. Better scuba diving, warmer water. Although I do have family in Texas. No ocean in Nevada either. I need my ocean. Well, maybe I was better at hitting thorns than you were, but I was always having to stock up on. DK, was I serious on the Arizona comment? I don't think anything
Well, look
official.
who's decided to show up today.
Mr. Gibbs.
Mr. Gibbs, are you there? Hello? Can you... Oh, he didn't have his ears in. He couldn't hear us.
What?
We were talking to you and you couldn't hear us.
Yeah, no. If I have it on the speakers on my computer, I wouldn't be able to hear it anyway. I have to have the ears in. I mean, because hearing issues. Remember, I'm deaf in one ear, so I got to have like surround sound.
I forgot that.
Yeah. Deaf in my left ear, and my right ear is starting to show wear.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that either.
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Yeah, Doug's had a little bit of a rough day, so we're gonna.
I always have a rough day, man. That's life, but you know, I try to squeeze 48 hours worth of stuff into 24 hours each day, and you know.
The crowd wants to see your Dr. Pepper.
I don't have one. I didn't have time to grab one.
Oh, that's such a crime.
I left 20 minutes earlier today than last week, and I get in like 2 minutes before. But you know.
Wow, that was traffic bad.
It is what it is.
Was traffic bad coming over the pass?
No, well, yeah, because there was two pullovers, one by the highway patrol, someone, and everybody has to stop and look, and then another one where they had like 4 vehicles pulled over by the border patrol. You know, and had a bunch of Mexicans like doing this stuff with their hands behind their head and all sort of stuff.
Yeah, they were probably getting ready to give them a ride to someplace where they need some voters.
Yeah, well, I know. I was kind of surprised. I thought they weren't enforcing immigration, but boy, they had it pulled over on this one.
Yeah,
must have been fruit in the trunk.
Did you guys see that little short hit with some captain of the Border Patrol was lecturing all these guys, and you need to just do your jobs? And they're saying, no, we took an oath to the Constitution. They were all talking back to him. It was actually really great to see. You guys catch that? Yeah, it was making the rounds. I think Bongino had it on yesterday.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that.
If I find that, I'll forward it over to you later on, Doug.
Grab a water.
It's actually a really good one.
Well, let's get her going, guys. It's 3:07, so
I always keep water in the office.
Let's get her going.
Yeah, we left off in Article 1, Section 8 last week. We're working our way through Article 1, Section 8. Fallbrook class this morning had 11th and 12th amendments, and I tell you what, it was quite the conversation. We start talking elections, so be aware, folks. There's some interesting stuff that's on the horizon when it comes to elections. Yeah, when I go through this stuff, you got to understand, and this is something I was trying to explain to the class earlier too, because I get this question often, and I want to open up with this. But why is it they, or how is it that they, and all these questions that start in that way? Yes, they do all these. I get it. How is it they do it? And it goes back to the same thing I always say: liars lie, tyrants act like tyrants, deceivers deceive. That's what they do. What I'm teaching you is the way it's supposed to be, the way it's supposed to happen. Unfortunately, we have a agenda, a narrative that is against the Constitution, and they just do it. Darren in the chat room says it's called fraud. Yeah, that's a part of it. They don't care because tyranny is more important than the way our system's supposed to be. And that's why at the end of my book, Basic Constitution, I write, it's only ink and paper if we don't fight for it, meaning the Constitution. So the reason why I teach this is I want you to be equipped with this information so that you can be the defenders of this system. It's not going to defend itself. And we have deceivers out there who are trying to convince you that the Constitution isn't even the Constitution, that the Constitution, it was just guidelines. As a matter of fact, Warhamster sent me a fantastic pic and said I would have fun with it by text. And it has an image of Biden on the screen, and it's on Fox News. And in the little title line below, Mr. President, what's his name, Brandon, it says, Constitution is always evolving.
No.
That's they want it to evolve. They do that on purpose because that's the only way they can get what they want. They're tyrants, tyranny, and the founders wrote this in order to protect against that. And we are so far from Kansas, as I like to say, that and so the key is here. I want to make you constitutional mechanics. The engine is under the hood is messed up. It's wrong. It's stuff missing. Stuff's broken. Well, how is it that the broken car only works really well on downhills? Because it's screwed up. We need to be mechanics to fix it so that it operates properly. That's the point here. That is a part of. And people say, well, what do we need to do to get back where we need to be? The road, the journey to get back where we need to be is getting back to the Constitution. It's not going to be instant. It's piece by piece, bit by bit. There's a lot of work that I'm doing, to do that. But people like me need help. And that's why I'm making little clones out of all of you. I want you to know this so that you can be constitutional mechanics. So where we left off last week, I just felt the need to say that as kind of an intro here. But now where we left off, Article 1, Section 8. What Article 1, Section 8 is, it is a list or an enumeration of the authorities that the federal government has. Remember, the way our Constitution is built, the federal government does not legally have a power unless it is listed, it is enumerated expressly in the Constitution. Not talking implied powers, we're not talking, general welfare, none of that garbage. Either it's expressly listed or it's not an authority. It's very simple. Constitution is a compact, a contract. So now, that said.
So I have a question from a new guy, and he says, Isn't the Constitution fundamentally a concrete philosophical foundation that is immutable and merely needs great attention?
That's a very good way of saying what essentially I said. Yes, absolutely. The foundation, and when you say concrete philosophical foundation, in other words, because it's concrete, it's set. It's not living and breathing. It's not changing with the times.
Right.
And that's the reason why they wrote it. Prior to the Constitution, English common law was, for the most part, written in the laws, the judicial opinions of the courts, and it was just kind of known. And it changed with the whims of society and with the rulings and opinions of the judges, who were, by the way, simply a mouthpiece for the king.
Well, the thing that gets me is we hired this government. We hired this government to do a job, 242 years ago, and went out once. We had a performance review. If I could be, submitting stuff at an Article 5 convention, I'm not so sure we shouldn't have a convention every 10 years minimum. The government. We know what the government's going to do if you let it. If it's not held in check.
Even better than an Article 5 convention, how about a Republic review where the states hold a convention? They come together, but it's for the purpose of auditing the federal government.
Well, you know my opinion on that one already, so.
Yeah, so that's Republic review. My good friend G.R. Mobley kind of is spearheading that effort. But
I'm going to find that link for the chat.
For Republic review?
Yeah, that's actually a really good link.
Yeah. So anyway, so we are in Article 1, Section 8. We began last week. If you missed shows, that's okay. YouTube page. Go back to it.
Yes.
Now, that's a wonderful thing about this. And the other nice thing about this is so far I haven't made them mad enough for them to shut down the YouTube page. So it's still there.
Well, and let's not.
Let's not.
Yeah, let's not. Let's keep it. Let's keep it.
Yeah, I
benign
try to keep it
enough.
very constitutional. So while there's always a lot of questions they want to ask about a lot of current issues, and I'll answer about current issues, I'm not going to get into the political world and party and conservative versus liberal as much as I'm going to, what does the Constitution say? Why is it authorized? Why is it not authorized? Why is it pertinent? Why is it not? So on and so forth. That's always going to be my game here. ReclaimingTheRepublic.org. Very good, Warhamster. Thanks for putting that in the chat room. All right, now, so we already talked about last week in Article 1, Section 8, that Congress has the power to lay and collect taxes, that they have the power to borrow the money on the credit of the United States. And we talked about the Commerce Clause last week, which really took a while, but it was important. Quick review. Word regulate means to put in good order. So to regulate commerce, it means to put it in good order. The only time the federal government has authority over commerce crossing state lines is if it's not operating in a manner that is in good order. And it needs to be put into good order. As long as as long as commerce is flowing between the states, crossing state lines, and is doing so in a manner that's acceptable and it's flowing, and it's like a river, it's unobstructed, there's no beavers building dams, then it's none of the federal government's business. The moment the beavers start building a dam and suddenly there's an obstruction, government comes in, federal government comes in to mediate, to free that up so that it can flow easily again. That's their only job when it comes to commerce. Now, the next one after that on our list, and if you have a pocket constitution like I have, Article 1, Section 8. If you have a book with a constitution in it, Article 1, Section 8. You don't have one? No problem. DouglasVGibbs.com/library. DouglasVGibbs.com/library. Find the historical documents box on that page. Click that, and then one of your choices will be the Constitution of the United States, available for you online as well. And it is designed pretty much the same way as this pocket constitution that I use is. To establish, and notice the word to over and over and over with each clause. What comes before that is the Congress shall have power. So I'm going to read it that way. Congress shall have power to establish an uniform rule of naturalization. I believe this is probably the only grammatical error in the whole Constitution. The word "and" in front of uniform. The word "and" in front of uniform. Uniform.
Is that a grammatical error or is that a typo on somebody
I think
else?
it's well, there's no typo. They weren't typing, but
no,
it is a grammatical error because people tend to think you put "an" before a vowel and you put "a" in front of a consonant. And that's partly right. It's you put "an" before a vowel sound and you put "a" in front of a consonant sound. Uniform, while it begins with a vowel, makes a consonant sound. So I think it's a grammatical error. I think people typically put "an" in front of vowels, not realizing that it's supposed to be in front of only a vowel sound. Uniform begins with a consonant sound.
So the pocket constitution I'm reading right now is probably the original one Doug gave me when we met over a year ago. And it's been through the Constitution 3 times, but it's got all my notes in the margins, and I've got a giant circle around that "an" one because we talked about it and looked it up several times. So I was dying to get to my favorite typo, even though it wasn't typed.
Have you learned anything about it other than what I said?
I've actually
there's no mention of it, really, right?
I've heard some terrible opinions on it, so I'm going to default to the Doug Gibbs interpretation.
Yeah, I just think that we get, and this is just human nature. We get so used to thinking, okay, "and" before a vowel and "a" before a consonant. And they saw the vowel, they wrote "and." Maybe they caught it later and like, well, I'm not going to rewrite the whole document again. It's not like you can come in with a whiteout or something,
Yeah,
so,
that was my question. Was it something that was actually handwritten out, or was it somebody who typoed it? Okay, that was my question.
It was originally handwritten out. And then the copies were handwritten as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
So anyway, So now we've got to establish an uniform rule of naturalization. So in other words, when it comes to when we say naturalization means to become a citizen through a legal process. Naturalization is to become a citizen through a legal process. So you're not a citizen. You weren't born here and have parents that are Americans and all that jazz. You came to the country, but you want to be a citizen. You're not a citizen yet. So you need to go through a legal process. That's what naturalization is. It's a legal process that enables someone to become a citizen. Normally, when in countries, when someone becomes a citizen, they then turn their back on their old allegiances to embrace their new allegiances. And that's what this is all about. So the uniform rule of naturalization, what it's saying is regardless of what state this person is going to become a U.S. citizen in, it is Congress's authority or job to create the rule regarding that, and it should be the same no matter where that person goes. So, you need to live here so long, you need to go through so much paperwork, whatever it may be, whatever those rules are, that's Congress's job to come up with those rules and make sure they're the same no matter where this person is naturalizing. Now, the reason why this is an important clause is because there is a misinterpretation or a misnomer with it. And while the conclusion is accurate, how to get to that conclusion is not necessarily so accurate. And here's what I mean. If you look up legal dictionaries and legal documents and the legal system, they will tell you that the authority that gives the federal government authorization over the immigration issue is that clause. And that is false. That clause only gives them authority over making a uniform rule regarding becoming a citizen, naturalization. But the actual issue of immigration is not mentioned there. Well, so what it implies it, Doug, because it's naturalization. What did I tell you earlier about implies? No imply. Constitution doesn't imply either it's hard express enumeration or it's not. So then, does the federal government have the authority over immigration? Yes, but not because of that clause. The clause that it has that authority regarding is something we'll talk about either next week or the week after. And it's at the beginning of Article 1, Section 9, where it says the migration or importation of such persons. And when it talks about the migration of such persons or any people, really, in this case, it's referring to persons that would be imported in. It's also the migration of them. But this also includes all migration when you read about it later. So the migration of persons into the United States, immigration, that's Article 1, Section 9. But federal government does have that authority. However, the authority is the migration of persons across the border. Once they're inside the country, it becomes what's called a concurrent issue. Both the states and the federal government have authorities regarding illegal aliens. So when I get to that issue in the next week or two, I'll get deeper into it. But I wanted to clarify that for you, that this clause here about naturalization, that's just saying that the government through the Congress, the federal government through their Congress, their legislative branch, has the authority to make rules about naturalization, but they need to be uniform no matter where that person is becoming a citizen. My wife is an immigrant. She took this oath and raised her hand, became a citizen in Los Angeles back in 2007. And for those of you who have never attended an a naturalization ceremony, I'll be honest, and maybe partly for me because I'm her husband, but partly because it's just a big issue, is it's a very emotional experience. If you ever have the opportunity to attend something like that, it's very fulfilling. It's very neat to see these Americans by choice take that oath. It's a very, very cool thing. All right, so to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Bankruptcies, that's huge. Because remember, prior to the Constitution, the states handled everything. They were like their own little countries. They were sort of like the members of the European Union. They held all of their powers And then they were in this loose-knit union called the Articles of Confederation. And so if you had a bankruptcy in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania is its own little country, well, I'll just go to Virginia. It wasn't like they were sharing records. They were their own little countries. They didn't care. You started all over again if you went to a different state. Well, when writing this, they're realizing, you know what? While the states are sovereign, while they are separate from each other, and we intend to allow them to take care of their own business, their own internal order and prosperity, when it comes to things that has to do with a country, when there needs to be a full faith and credit, in other words, a connection, this is something that should be recognized in all states under one umbrella of the country. So if you become bankrupt in one state, you are not bankrupt in the state, you are bankrupt in the country. And no matter where you go in the country, that bankruptcy is going to follow you. And therefore, Congress has the authority to establish the uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Uniform laws. So in other words, no matter where you go with your bankruptcy, the law is the same, the legal process is the same, and it follows you, full faith and credit, which is in Article 4, by the way. It'll follow you wherever you go, because we're a country now. Used to be a bunch of states. Now we're a country. And so
Doug,
the idea is, if we're going to be a country and we want to hold this country together and act as a country, there are some things that will need to become a countrywide thing, like bankruptcy. Okay.
So is this implying that a lot of other things that Congress is currently doing or has done were not supposed to be allowed?
Well, first of all, thank you for starting that sentence with implying. I'll wring your neck later. No, I'm kidding. Warhamster's asking, those of you didn't hear it. So this is implying, he's saying to the government's taking it this way. Oh, so if this has got to be uniform, everything's got to be uniform. We're going to make it all uniform because that's what we do.
I'm going to say it's just the opposite. I say it's just the opposite.
Something there. There's a lot of things there's not supposed to be uniform. It's up to each state. I agree.
Well, I think it's the opposite. I think it's pretty clear what the founding fathers were saying here is, okay, bankruptcies, yeah, we're going to have that be uniform, but all these other issues, that's a state matter, of course.
Well,
and
and
Congress,
it depends on what it is. And sometimes there are issues where it's a little bit of both. For example, guns. When it comes to our guns, each state's going to have its own laws regarding guns. One state, it might be 14 and you can buy one. Another one might be 21. Another one might be 18. And that's the way it should be.
No, the way it should be.
We have a federal government saying, no, you got to do it the way we tell you. It's none of their business. Each state's going to be different. However, so in that sense, they need to be unique. However, when it comes to, say, concealed carry, well, that should be the same throughout the country. Because of full faith and credit, get back to Article 4. So if they're going to require permits, which is, in my opinion, unconstitutional, because the word keep and bear means to carry on person, whether it's concealed or not. That's the reason I love the new constitutional carry laws that have been taken off in the country. But if there's going to be a permit, then that permit should be okay in every state, just like your driver's license. Because when I'm driving, even though the driver's license law to get that might be different in each state, it might be the test in California, for example, is a little bit more difficult, a little stricter than, say, Oregon. When I took the California test, I studied, failed, and had to do it a second time. I go up to Oregon, I never opened the book, and I nailed it. And it might be because I'm older too, I don't know. But my license, though, whether I have an Oregon license or a California license or Utah license, doesn't matter where I go, I can still drive. Utah will say, well, you got this state Oregon license, but we'll accept it because if you're okay with them, you're okay with us. But if you move here, we want you to get a new license. So full faith and credit or reciprocity then becomes the key there. So now when it comes back to bankruptcy, however, you don't have well, local versus reciprocity. It's supposed to be the same uniform laws throughout, no matter what. Good question, though. And, it's, I tell you what, I am enjoying the fact that I can see the chat room. So I do appreciate being over here at the way we're doing it now. But anyway, all right, let's continue. The next one down, Congress shall have the power to, this is where War Hamster is going to shine.
What are you saying?
We're going to talk about this.
What are you saying?
I'm sorry, you're kind of blurry and dim there, dull. Turn up the light there. I need you to shine. No, I'm kidding. Congress shall have the power to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and a foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. So let's stick with the coin part. So Congress has the power to make the coin. The Congress coins the money. It doesn't say some bank somewhere, some centralized bank, or that the government's going to borrow from a bank.
Private bank?
Money.
Some private bank that pretends to be federal?
Yeah, something like that. Or like what Hamilton wound up doing with the United States, Bank of the United States. This is saying, no, here in America, we don't want to, and this is where it gets fun. We don't want to be a part of that centralized banking system with private bankers. We're going to take care of it ourselves. We're going to coin our money. We are going to run our banks. We are going to regulate the value. We're not going to let a bunch of international bankers do it for us. Do you think it kind of made certain people around the world ticked off that we did that?
I would say so. I can
name a few of them.
You can name a few of them. What's a War Hamster? So here we got, and this is where I want you to kind of shine a little bit here. So here we have a government. Now, granted, the United States is a third world country at this point. We're still developing, but we're on the stage. We are, in the mix with these European countries, and we work with them and all. And we're saying, we don't want to be a part of your corrupt system. We're creating our own. We're going to coin our own money. We are going to run our own banks. We are going to take care of ourselves. We're going to regulate the value of our own money ourselves. None of your business. We don't want the private bankers running everything. And we've got a system of private international bankers that are screaming their heads off. Now, international privatized banking kind of emerged during the 1600s. Before that, the way we were doing it, that's the way governments had always done it.
Suddenly, let me jump in on that one, Doug.
Do.
So you got basically, if you look at the history of money, originally you had the temples were basically the ones who created coinage. The Romans, during the Caesar period, the Romans took that over and made a mess of it. It became an imperial right during the time of kings, all through the Middle Ages. In 1666, the British East India Company successfully lobbied the king for a permanent permission to be able to mint coin. And what they were doing is they could take 6 ounces of sterling, sail it over to India, different exchange rate, it'd come back as 12 ounces. So they were just basically doing an arbitrage trade. Well, it grew from there. They made so much money, these private merchant class, they ended up becoming more powerful than the royalty, than the kings, who only lasted a couple hundred years longer. And we still have these multinational corporations because we've given them permission to print money at will. And it's exactly what we did with the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. And Congress, I don't think, had the right to do that. They were given an enumerated responsibility that they can't just give away to private enterprise. That's why we need the Fed to be audited. We need the Fed to be ended. There's absolutely no way in HE double hockey sticks that should be allowed to be in place.
Very good, man. Now, on top of, and now a little side story here. So on top of us saying, no, we're going to take care of our own money. We don't want to be in the system. We're going to do it ourselves. Oh, by the way, we also plan to separate ourselves from the international legal system as well. So we don't want anything to do with your banking. We don't want anything to do with your legal system. We're going to do it our way. Well, Doug, don't you think that's kind of isolationist and protectionist? I suppose you could use those words. but that's a good thing. I'm not saying that we should not have anything to do with the rest of the world. I'm saying that doing things our way and then working with the world on stuff through our lens, the way we do it, through our system, that's the way we should be doing it still today. Unfortunately, Alexander Hamilton, during George Washington's presidency, convinced Congress and convinced George Washington to create a Bank of the United States. And that Bank of the United States in 1791 was created. The only good part about it is the fact that it wasn't forever. It had a 20-year charter, and that charter could expire. And it did expire in 1811, and it was not renewed.
Now, I have a question, and this is probably going to be more of a question for Warhamster. But, the Federal Reserve was chartered for 100 years, and it was supposed to come up for recharter in 2013, was it not?
Nope, I don't think that's accurate. There was no time limit on the charter.
Okay, I thought there was, but I'd like you to investigate that a little bit.
I have not heard that it was chartered myself either, but
okay.
Well, I've got the Federal Reserve Act pulled up.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was a charter and they just renewed it and didn't tell anybody.
I thought I remember Ron Paul talking about the Federal Reserve Act in 2013. One other thing, my buddy says it's been said that when Ben Franklin went to London prior to the Revolution, the issue of the colonists using colonial script, the Brits were not down with that and decreed that the colonists were ordered to use British money only.
Right.
Yeah,
that was one of the reasons why the money that was being paid to the American Revolution veterans through the Articles of Confederation, which was their own money, was such a big problem because the creditors, the merchants, were still operating on the money system that the British were using. So any monies that went, so for them to pay their debt to Britain, for example, they needed to have something that could be converted. Now the Revolutionary War, and this is the Shays Rebellion, is what I'm talking about, 1786, right before the Constitutional Convention, spurned the Constitution to happen. And so these veterans are getting paid for their service with this paper, this worthless paper printed by the Articles of Confederation Continental Congress. So they went away from the script because they were told they couldn't do it anymore, but they didn't want to use the British stuff, so they printed something new. And the merchants are saying, hey, we can't use that stuff to pay our bills with the British. They want gold, silver, ore, and I can't remember what the money was at the time that they wanted them to use, but the British, money or whatever. And the veterans are very upset. So they're like, hey, how am I going to pay my bills if I've got this worthless paper that the merchants won't take? And the merchants are like, well, we're not going to take anything but, and the government's saying, well, we're not going to issue it. So you've got a situation here. And so out of anger and frustration and really kind of to save themselves, the revolutionary veterans protested. In fact, it became an insurrection, so to speak, a rebellion, Shays Rebellion, to the point where they were blocking the steps of courthouses to keep the merchants from delivering the lawsuits against them. And what wound up eventually happening is a merchant force was put together by the merchants, mercenary force by the merchants to attack these rebelling veterans from the Revolutionary War. And someone says, well, where did those mercenaries come from? Well, who's the merchants working with? The British and the European bankers. Trust me, they had no problem putting together the force because they have the power and energy of Europe behind it. Boy, I tell you what, as you listen to me, are you starting to feel like, wow, the more things change, they stay the same?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wanted to, you talked
Go ahead,
about
Warhamster.
You talked about the first Bank of the United States charter ending in 1911. I was trying to dig it up. 1811. Only a century difference. Literally, Nathan Rothschild, I believe it was, said that if they don't renew the charter, the United States will find itself in a very serious war, which basically 6 months later, we get the War of 1812.
Correct. Yeah.
No territory was gained or lost, but we created so much war debt that Congress chartered the Second Bank of the United States in 1815. So
right. And
bank,
what's interesting about that is James Madison, who signed that act, was originally against the central bank. He argued against the central bank. He was vehemently against the first one, but he felt like his hands were tied because of all the debt from the war. And also, the war didn't go as well as we wanted it to. What we had tried to do was take part of Canada during that war, and it didn't work out.
Now, the Great Lakes stuff was pretty interesting. There's a really good video on that. Hey, I've got the quote that Ron was quoting from Ben Franklin.
Okay.
He was asked why the working class in the colonies were so prosperous. He goes, "This is simple. In the colonies, we issue our own paper money. It is called colonial scrip. We issue it in proper proportion to make the goods and pass easily from the producers to the consumers. In this manner, creating ourselves our own paper money, we control its purchasing power, and we have no interest to pay to no one." So he got it. They knew.
It's a great quote.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. And that's the whole reason why here it says to coin money. It's up to Congress to coin money. Now, you'll notice there's no brackets around that. So it really still stands. So really, if you want to get technical, that paper stuff in your wallet and those coins that are not coined per se by Congress, but by a mint under an order by the Federal Reserve and the banks, that's unconstitutional money, or currency, should I say. It's unconstitutional because from a constitutional point of view, our Congress is supposed to coin it. And if you get into Article 1, Section 10 later, you realize that not only is Congress only supposed to be the ones coining money, but it's also only supposed to be gold or silver. Now, that said, and I surround myself with all kinds of monetary minds so that I know what the hell I'm talking about. It doesn't matter if it's gold or silver, as long as it's something we all accept. If it's something we accept, it could be really anything. The Incas, according to my friend Alan Myers, got away with cacao beans. They had all this gold and silver, but they used it for like statues and stuff. They didn't use it for money. They used cacao beans, which, by the way, literally grew on trees. So, yeah, their money grew on trees. But the cacao bean crop was very controlled. So it was scarce because it wasn't a plant that grew wild, and it was controlled by the Inca government per se. But nonetheless, as long as everybody agrees on something, it can work.
Yeah, the tobacco leaves
gold and silver. But in this case, Congress was supposed to coin the money. It was supposed to be gold and silver. It was not supposed to be attached to foreign banks or anything like that.
I was just going to say the tobacco leaves didn't work out too well. People started paying. People started paying their debts with the old tobacco and using the new stuff for, I guess, more. The money was not a store of value because tobacco rots or withers or ages or dies, whatever you want to call it. My favorite was always the tally sticks.
Tally sticks.
Oh, that's an interesting story out of Britain, and basically, where the notches were and all that, determined the value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's no coincidence that right after the tally sticks were invented, the middle class started getting trade routes, roads, bridges, and we got the Magna Carta shortly thereafter. The first democratically elected. That all happened in the same century in the 1200s.
Well, what those sticks are, what our money was when Congress was supposed to coin it, all of that. What that is it's called a democratic dynamic system of money. Democratic because it's controlled by the people, and dynamic because it has the ability to expand or retract in any way that it needs to. That is the way a monetary system is supposed to operate, democratically and dynamic. Now, while I say we're not a democracy, when it comes to our system of money, it should be democratic in the sense that it's the consumer, supplier, manufacturer relationship that has control of its value and how it functions and fluctuates and all that through natural, the natural journey of an economic system through whatever it does. And what happens when you do that is the boom bust cycles are very mild. You have this very mild roller coaster of slight ups and slight downs. When you bring in banks, privatized banks, bankers, and artificial manipulation of the system, then the boom bust cycles go from a very mild up and down to these giant ups and downs, these hills and valleys that are exaggerated. And so you have these big, like housing bubbles or something like that, and then suddenly a huge recession. What we're experiencing here, where we get these big bubbles and these big drops, that's because of the Federal Reserve. That's because of the banking system. It's because the bankers are trying to artificially manipulate the system. If we were to get rid of the Federal Reserve, coin our own money, and allow our own economic system to determine the rises and falls based on consumer activity and manufacturing activity, then it wouldn't be so drastic. The ups and downs wouldn't be so high and low.
And I think it's a really important point you just made there when it comes to monetary supply. It's been debated, everywhere for the last 5-6 years, with Bitcoin entering the fray. And a lot of people think it's going to be a store of value because there's only 21 million Bitcoins. But in a really dynamic and functional economy, you should have a responsible body that can create more money when there's economic need for it. Whether just through growth or what have you, or, let's say there's a disaster, that's one time when the government should create more money to help people not die and starve, and then try to retract it back to what's considered the neutral level. But that's the opposite of what we have today, because it's one hand on the printer button nonstop. But you get a responsible body, which is the hard part, because obviously Congress has shirked their duty. Maybe this should have been something the states did. Maybe
Right.
That's something we to talk about. But if we had a responsible body that could control the money supply, we'd have a much better economic system. All of the booms in mankind's history have been associated with plentiful money, and all of the busts has been with declining money supply.
Tim Hers in the chat room is asking a question, and I want to field it real quick. Is there any way the Founding Fathers prepped for human psychological behavior outside of necessary presuming some innate form of rationality in order to maintain constitutionality? They understood that human nature, our human psychological behavior, could be erratic, and we tend to lean towards the easy road, power, money, things like that. They understood that. That's the reason why there was so many mechanisms in place. It was to guard against that. And they recognize that tyrants, tyrannies, and those who seek power and wealth are willing to try to disassemble those things. They did the best they could to make it difficult. But, there's nothing's going to be fail safe. And when it's being attacked by such a powerful force of tyranny over and over and over for over 200 years, mechanisms are going to deteriorate. Things are going to be removed. Things are going to vanish. And eventually you're going to wind up with a system that's not operating the way it should. And that's what's going on. For example, real quick, in the beginning with the Constitution, if we were following it exactly right, there is not a single decision that the federal government could make without either direct or indirect approval from the state legislatures. But those mechanisms now are gone. 16th Amendment, 17th Amendment, Federal Reserve are three of the things that took away mechanisms. And there's others. Our Electoral College is not operating the way it originally was intended. There's also things that have changed just based on the courts and our tendencies and implied powers and interpretation and so on and so forth. And so even people who claim to be quote unquote conservatives believe things that aren't necessarily true, and they don't understand that it's harmful to believe and operate in the manner that we believe and operate, not realizing it's not even constitutional. A great example is birthright citizenship. Just because you're born on American soil doesn't mean you're automatically an American citizen. There's more to it than that. But we've accepted that born on American soil is good enough, and both sides have accepted it, and we don't even understand the damage that it's caused, nor that it should be any different. Because we've been so infiltrated inside our own minds even to believe something, because that's all we know. And that's the reason why now certain parts of the battle are doing everything they can now to revise history and remove certain parts of history. Because if you don't know, if you don't understand liberty, how can you cry out for it? Is kind of their attitude. And and that's what we're seeing. But so good question. But ultimately, yes, they did. The answer is yes, they did. However, even all of the precautions they put into place, all of the mechanisms they put in place, it wasn't totally infallible. And a quote that I think that recognizes, why did I just? Oh, now I remember the quote that really kind of recognizes the fact that human nature, that no system is perfect, even though it's built to be as close to it as it can, is a Winston Churchill quote that says, "There's no system worse." Let me rephrase that. The United States has the worst system ever, except for all other systems. So in other words, yeah, it's flawed. But you know what? Even though it's flawed compared to everything else, it's the best one out there.
Well, Doug, why don't you spend a minute, 60 to 90 seconds, and tell your salsa story about the Constitution.
Okay, and then I also want to address
briefly
conservative Cowboys question
because I think that's something that people can identify with. I know when you told it to me, it was like, you know what, I can understand
sense.
that.
Yeah. Well, the salsa story, and it's a true story, by the way. My dad has like the best salsa recipe. I actually put it online before, so if you look hard enough, you'll find it. But his salsa recipe includes certain things, and it's a fantastic recipe, and everybody knew it was good. So throughout the family, people started asking for the recipe. And as the years passed, the recipe went from, such and such uncle and aunt to certain cousins and so on and so forth, and worked its way through the family. And finally, a few years after all of that started, one of the nephews calls up my dad and says, Jerry, your salsa recipe, it's awful. It really sucks. He says, well, what do you mean? So, well, I tried it. I made it. It's terrible. Says, well, what'd you put in it? Well, it turns out, as this nephew made the recipe and as it changed over time and all that, instead of putting lime juice, he put lemon juice. Instead of putting garlic, he put garlic powder. Instead of using aroma tomatoes like recipe calls for, he put the round beefsteak tomatoes. Instead of green onions, he used yellow onions. And then when he didn't know what cilantro was, he looked it up online, and it says, well, it's a kind of Mexican parsley. He put parsley in it instead of cilantro. Of course, it was horrible. The recipe was wrong. That's what Ron is trying to get here, is with the Constitution. The original recipe is what we're talking about. They've taken that original recipe and they put other stuff in there, and then everybody's wondering why it's not right. It's because we're operating on the wrong recipe. The problem is not the Constitution. The problem is us. And so we need to pop the hood and realize, you know what, that hose is missing, that belt is missing, that item is in the wrong place, and so on and so forth. As for the question about convention of states, 49 states have proposed applications over the last 200 plus years. Used to be 50, but Oklahoma had one and they rescinded it. That's why it's 49. Over 750 applications over the last 200 plus years have been put forth to have a convention, and they don't expire. So this idea by the conventionofstates.org, and I love what they're trying to do. I appreciate them, but they're missing the fact that we're there already. We're not waiting for more states. We've got enough. Call the convention already. The problem is, Article 5 says that Congress shall call the convention. It says shall, it's mandatory, but they haven't. So now here's the question. Can the states call it without the federal government calling it? And that's been the big debate. I believe they can, based on the 9th Amendment. Ninth Amendment says that the federal government shall not disparage or I can't remember the other word, our rights, and that's a state right. To hold a convention is the right of the states. And so if the federal government's not going to participate properly in that right, the states have a right to take care of that right themselves. That's my opinion. Okay. Because I'm watching the conversation about Convention of States, and it's, and they're like, I think he said 45. I think he said 49. I just want to make sure that it all was straight there. So 49 states, over 750 applications. If you want to see where that information is, Friends of the Article 5 Convention. So FOAVC, I can't remember if it's .com or .org. I'm sure Warhamster will look it up real quick, because he's actually been in touch with the gentleman that's behind that organization. I connected them. So there's two organizations out there, Convention of States and Friends of the Article 5 Convention. And Friends of the Article 5 Convention has all of the data regarding the over 750 applications by 49 states.
Yeah, I actually, I'm posting that link into the chat right now.
Okay.
They did it. They've got an ongoing, not very well attended mock convention going on. The organizer, our friend John, calls it. It's a real convention. So early on when he did that, I participated and actually suggested a couple of amendments, and you can probably find me in there if you go to that website. It's close to a year
what's
ago.
funny is John is on target with the way it's supposed to be done, and Mark Meckler has the numbers, but we can't seem to get them to.
Well, that's the issue with Meckler, and I have yet to join Convention of States Action, but I've spoken with them a number of times. They are really good at marketing their organization. They're not so good at getting states to sign up. They emailed out the announcement. They got to 17
or getting all the facts right, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, look, Meckler knows his stuff. I'm not going to get into a debate with him on this stuff. That's your job. But look, I like the people in the organization I've met. I may end up being a district captain. I spent most of this year, trying to help out with audit-related issues. So maybe that'll be my 2022 push. I'll get involved with the Convention of States Action, but I'd like to see them answer some of your tough questions first, and I don't think they're willing to do that.
The treasurer of my nonprofit Constitution Association, George, is a district captain, and he's been trying to get that information to them too. And so it's not just you, but and I don't know why, and I'm not going to speculate because I don't want to start ruffling feathers, but there needs to be some more communication between people like Meckler, myself, and John from 50AVC, FOAVC, Friends of the Article 5 Convention, because we need to be working together on this. We really do. And I want people to, for fear of touching on what I think might be a part of it, I think people need to set their egos aside. Okay.
I'm going to shut up on that one.
Well, let's continue. Hey, I've been doing this long enough. I know exactly how to almost stick my foot in my mouth, but not quite.
Right.
Okay. All right. So let's move on down here. So it says fixed standard of weights and measures after the coin money. Could you imagine if you went to Arizona and you have the standard English system and say, hey, we work with the metric here? Well, that's a real problem in the industry, isn't it? So we have a standard weights and measures throughout the United States. Personally, I like the English system, partly because the standard, American standard actually is what it's called now, what we use, because it's different. I like being different from the rest of the world. It just kind of puts a smile on my face. But because, see, you know what American exceptionalism means, right? People think exceptionalism means, oh, we're so exceptional that we're better. It's like it's some arrogance or something. No, exceptionalism means we're the exception to the rule. We're not doing it the way they do it. We want to have our own coined money. We want to have our own legal system. We want to have our own weights. We're different. We're going to be unique. And you know what? We're doing it in such a way that it kicks butt. Exceptionalism. All right. Exception to the rule. So let's continue. To provide the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. Well, if they're going to be coining money, and what are securities? Those are loan instruments. Those are debt instruments. You got your bonds and so on and so forth. Punishment for counterfeiting the securities and current coin. Well, if Congress is going to create it, they should have the power to punish the counterfeit versions of it. Then it says Congress shall have the power to establish post offices and post roads. This is a very interesting part of the Constitution. And we have 1 minute left, so I'm going to try to go through it as quick as I can. Well, we started, I think, 2 minutes later or whatever. So it says establish. You see that? Establish post offices. Federal government establishes it. Once it's established, it's the state's job to run it. So this federal postal service thing that we have with federal post offices, the federal government runs everything, is really outside what was originally intended. They were to establish it, but then once it was there and ready and rolling, it was for the states to take over. I'm going to continue with that same clause next week. I'm going to get more into, what post roads mean and the necessary and proper clause, how it applies, and things like that. But we're out of time, so I want to stop here. So we'll continue with post offices next week. Any last minute questions?
I just want to remind Ron to plug. I want to remind Ron to plug our 4:30 show and put a link in the chat if you could.
I do not have a link to the chat, but I do. I did post the link to the Glitch in the Matrix, and I do believe we are going to go live there. So, in fact, let me go back and find that Glitch in the Matrix. Glitch.
While he's doing that, I'll say thank you for another great class, Doug.
Thank you.
I have a feeling my presence on here is slowing down the pace. So
no, your presence is perfect, especially.
No, I don't. I disagree with that, Warhamster. Disagree with that in total.
Now, I'm glad you're here, Warhamster, especially when it came to coining money. You brought in insight that I may partially have, but you explained it in a way that I don't, and I appreciate it.
So I just posted the link for the Rumble channel, and thank you, Amy. You're a doll.
She also put it out there,
yeah. Amy is my friend in Mississippi. So she is who I stayed with when I had my procedure done in Mississippi.
We have a gentleman by the name of Chris who's in Diamond Head, Mississippi, who's also
and I think
watches our show.
He's here, I believe. I think he's here today.
Yeah, he texted me. He is there.
So,
he was having. I don't know if anybody else was having. Chris did mention that he was having a little bit of trouble with the live stream freezing on him. Chris, I don't know if you got that solved or not. I'm certainly not going to tech support guy here.
No, but we are. Warhamster and I are. We do a weekly roundtable show with Alpha Warrior and Dan Radio Style from On the Fringe. We do a 1 hour show, generally 1 hour. Just kind of talking about stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Totally unscripted. We have no idea what direction every one of them is going to go. I mean, well, we're on in 30 minutes. And I have no idea what we'll be talking about in 33 minutes from now.
Right, and it's a lot of fun. We enjoy. We have a good time doing it.
Yeah, and thanks, Amherst. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you to all of you that appreciate what I'm offering here. Thank you, Chris. I love doing this, and like I said at the very beginning, I want you all to become constitutional mechanics.
Well,
we need to get this all fixed, and we need as many mechanics on board as we can. The vehicle is not going to fix itself.
We have to know the proper ingredients in the salsa. We can't.
That's right.
We have to fix it.
That's the whole point.
So,
all right. Well,
one last little thing.
Place before, I've also got to get out the door to get someplace else on time.
Oh, can I get out of here? We'll do it next week.
So go ahead and close out. Yeah, it takes me about an hour to get where I got to. Well, an hour and a half to get where I got to go, and it starts at 6, so I got to get. But I did want to say one more time. something that I usually say on the end of my radio shows, and I want you guys to hear this because this is my typical sign-off. United we stand, combined we kick butt. God bless America, and my friends, God bless you. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, Doug. See ya.